Today's date is April 18th, 2024, and I'm going to give you a personal testimony. I'll try to keep it short. In the beginning, there was God, and He created everything, including mankind. He created everything that has breath. Everything that you see in the atmosphere, everything, the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, the water, the land, the people, the birds, the animal, the vegetation, everything that we'd eat, and everybody could agree that the air that we breathe comes from God. Okay, so now it gets to the point of the two-state solution. What is the two-state solution for Israel? Well, for Israel, there's not a two-state solution. Israel is Israel. Now, if you go back to the lineage of Israel and Israel's roots, you will see the 12 tribes of Jacob, who is later changed to Israel. The name Jacob is also Israel. And you have the 12 tribes of Israel. That's where you get the name Israel from. And if you go back on a geographical map, you can pull up the different regions of Israel. The 12 sons are each named after Israel, and that is where Israel is. Now, is there a two-state for Israel? Joshua. In the book of Joshua, chapter 11, talks about dividing the land. Joshua divided the land. Okay? And when he did, he divided all parts equally to Jacob. And his new name, Israel. Israel is where Joshua divided the land. It's already been divided. Now, in a latter time, Joel 3 talks about it being divided. Israel has been scattered. Every bit of Israel, every bit of the regions of Israel has been scattered. The people from different has been scattered. And Joel 3 talks about the land being divided. And not, is it a consideration? Will it be divided? It says it is divided. It says it is right now. Okay, now, what does that mean? There's 5 on the United Nations that want to say, should we do this or should we not do this? Should we? Should we not? The Bible says it is. That's what the Bible says. Now, let me give you a little testimony. Because you might want to consider this. I'm going to give you a testimony from my mother's side, who was born May 14th, 1953. And she was born in Oklahoma. Okay? She was born Oklahoma, and May 14th, 1953. And she grew up with my grandmother, who was born March 28, 1933. And her and my grandparents established a farm. Now, the farm was a very successful farm. It had its ups and downs. It wasn't just my grandmother and my grandpa's farm. It was my grandparents' farm with my uncle, which was my grandpa and his brother. My grandpa and his brother, the Skaggs brothers, established a farm, okay? Now, was it divided equally? Those who know me knows the truth. Was the Skaggs farm divided equally? Yes or no? I don't have to give any explanations. Those who know me can say yes or can say no. Think about this. Now, the Skaggs farm, my grandparents have passed, and my brother and my uncle, which is my grandpa's brother, he passed with his wife, and it's left as an inheritance, right? The Skaggs farm, was it an equal share of labor that they did together? Yes or no? Now, question is, was it divided rightfully? Okay, now I'm going to take you on a journey to Iran, where my father was born in Tehran, Iran. Okay? My father, born according to the American calendar, May 30th, 1953, born as Mojtaba Da'i in Iran, Tehran. He came to America. Now, when he came to America, he was looking for a cure with his sister. Before I go there, I'm going to tell you about his parents. My father's parents. My father, my granddad, which they would say Baba Buzurg, my granddad, my grandfather, he had a brother. And both of him and his brother had a business, much like my grandparents and my uncle. Get it? Now, my dad on Iran, in the Iranian family side, his dad and his brother had a business. Now, they were both co-partners in the Da'i family business. Okay? Now, they both put in the same amount of labor, equal shares in their business. And what their business was, they were very successful, much like my Oklahoma grandparents. My Iranian grandparents was very successful too. They both put in equal shares. Now, to my Iranian side heritage, was it divided equally? Righteously? Was the Da'i family legacy divided equally to the generation next? That is a heritage. Was it? Now, what I'm saying here is both my Da'i family and my Skaggs family both believed in God. My mother's side believed in God, my father's side believed in God. Okay? Now, my mother's side believed in Jesus, and my father's side believed in Muhammad. Now, listen to me as I'm telling you, this is a true story. My mother's family pretty much passed away first. And what happened? It had to be divided. The land was divided between my grandpa. When he passed, he was given a portion. Was it equally shared? What determines equally shared? What determines it? What agreement determines it? Is there a covenant? Is there a written word? What agreement determined my mother's side getting 40 acres divided times 3? That's 120 acres, okay? And then a token of cash amount. So 120 acres, approximately. And then a division on different supplies, materials, the harvest, because they had a farm. There was hay, there was cattle. These things get divided. What portion belonged to my grandpa's side when he passed? After my grandmother and grandpa passed, there was a division. And the inheritance went half to my mother's side and half to my cousin's side, my uncles. So, was it divided properly? That's the question. Okay? And now, Coming to my father's side, I'm going to just tell you more descriptive on my father's side. My father had 10 brothers and sisters in Iran. And when my grandpa passed, right before he was passing, he was doing his, portion dividings. And when it came time to divide things, suddenly he didn't have any portion. He just had whatever was in his bank account, on his personal bank account, not the business, not the family bank account. The family bank account somewhere down the line was taken away without my grandpa's knowledge in Iran. And by the time my grandpa was passing, it was too late. And what did my grandpa do? Well, I know what my dad did and his brothers and sisters. They were very mad. They wanted to go over there and do the worst. Rightfully. That's what happens when somebody takes your territory that belongs to you rightfully. You get very angry. Rightfully. Like God. Somebody divides his land that's not right, that's not in the covenant agreement, you get very angry. So what did my grandpa do in Iran? Because his brother took off with the other half, with his portion of the business. He took his business, his portion, and my grandpa's portion. My grandpa didn't know it. There was a signature that was not signed by my grandpa. And my grandpa was a very coherent, rightful man. He wasn't a druggie or something that didn't know what he was doing. He was a businessman all of his life, very good. He was 103 when he passed away. He was right in the mind, exercised daily, ate healthy. And to his knowledge, he believed in Muhammad. He was religious too and believed his word. So what am I saying when it comes to the land? And whose God do you believe? I'm going to break it down to you real simple. When it all comes down to it, Abraham stems back to the Abraham, because see, with Abraham, there was also a Jewish covenant, there was a Muslim covenant, and there's 3 religions that stems from Abraham. Jewish, Christianity because of Jesus, and Muslim because of Muhammad, which came from Ishmael, from Abraham. And when it comes down to it, without putting your profit, your personal profit, I just want to show you something. This is Shilah's testimony. Shilah, me, I live much like Jacob in the Bible. I've identified myself to being like Jacob, and I'll tell you that in just a minute. But going back to, besides the Muhammad or the Jesus or whatever new Messiah is coming on board soon in Israel with the red heifer sacrifice, what is the righteous spirit? Did my mother get her portion correctly? Was her portions the same as my cousins, their daughters? Was my mother's portion equally divided? Comparison to what my cousins got? I don't know, you tell me. On my dad's side, was his portion equal to what his cousins got? You in Iran that are on the Da'i side, tell me. And you will say that you will see the truth in what I'm telling you. Now, who do I believe in? I believe in Jesus. Why do I believe in Jesus? Because I wear the shirt, Shiloh. When I was looking for who am I? Why am I this way? Why am I walking in this world different than many women? I'm born a woman. What's going on here? Why do I identify like Jacob in the Bible? Well, because Jacob wrestled with God and got his name changed. And I really encourage everybody who listens to this to read about Jacob. Jacob and his whole line. I really encourage you. Jacob didn't know who he was, yet he had royal blood. He had 4 wives, I guess you would say, because through the 4 of them, he had one promised wife, Jacob, and Rachel. But he was given Leah, the first sister. That's not what Jacob wanted. Jacob wanted Rachel. But through all that process, Laban, his uncle, didn't give him the promise. It wasn't divided correctly. He gave him Rachel, and he gave him Leah, the first sister, instead. And then he had to work a lot more. He had to labor. And then go and read it. Then he got his promise. But by then, now you're looking at something. Much like what I'm experiencing in my personal life, as I just shared with you my mother's testimony from Oklahoma and my father's testimony from Iran. Both of them believe in different prophets. Yet, why would I not choose Muhammad? We are descendants from Muhammad, by the way. Descendants from King Darius and a prophet Muhammad. Why would I not choose that one? That's prestigious. That's well known. Seems like the world likes that a lot more right now. Well, I can't. I can't choose that. And that's my actual family background. I grew up with my dad. How do you think my dad feels? Well, what I'm saying is the truth. And the reason I'm telling you and testifying this story is it is the truth. Shiloh feels like Jacob. Shiloh was born August 10th, 1977. And when I read the Bible for the first time, nobody showed me this. I read it. Genesis 49, verse 8. And the scepter does not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver between his feet, verse 10, until Shiloh returns. To the people, they will be gathered. Genesis is the beginning of the whole Bible. The number 8 it means beginning. August is the 8th month. I was born in August. I was born on the 10th in 1977. My mother was born May 14th, the day that Israel became a nation. My father born 2 weeks later. Okay? What am I saying with this? I do feel like Jacob, even though I'm not Jacob, I'm Shiloh. I identify much like his story because Shiloh is returning. I have a strong testimony with this. And I have seen my mother, how she fought for everything that was due to her, her inheritance. She didn't get a fair portion. And because of it, it caused her a lot of anxiety. It caused her to have a stroke. And everything that she fought for, she suffered at the end of her life. She didn't get it caused her, anxiety can cause you to do things that you might not do if you're living in a free, peaceful world, right? Anxiety can cause things like, my mom wasn't an alcoholic, but it can cause like alcoholism. She smoked cigarettes, so it caused her to smoke more, caused her to eat more. She just lost her, kind of like giving up. And I saw what an unfair portion did to my mom. It wasn't fair. And then I saw how she suffered a little more by the government. That wasn't fair either. And it really makes me angry. And I really, at the time, wanted to do something that my emotions probably could not handle in truth. And then my dad's side, they had a little, even though my mom's side was pretty wealthy, my dad's side even more wealthier in Iran. And their legacy and their inheritance, the background, and who they are as individuals as well. And the Da'i family in Iran's pretty significant. And when my grandpa was pretty much X'd out in his portion, my grandpa was mad. But there was a spirit inside of my grandpa that knew that God would take care of it. My grandpa didn't get vengeance. There's a righteous spirit in all of us. There's an evil spirit in all of us. Go to each country and you can identify them. Go to England, you can see good and bad. Go to India, you can see good and bad. Go to Africa, you can see good and bad. Australia, Indonesia, China, Russia, you can see good and bad. And you should be able to identify what is good, what's bad, what is true, and what's false. My grandpa, his side, his equal portion, he didn't let his nature take course of his brother. He let God take course on him. Now when it was not divided equally, my grandpa lived a longer life, but his brother passed away earlier due to some kind of cancer. And that cancer ate him up, especially in his face. They said he looked like a baboon, basically. I don't know exactly what that really truly means because I didn't see him. But they said that when he passed away, he didn't look right at all. He looked like hell came against him. And that's God taking vengeance. So, I'm Shyla, born August 10th, 1977. I'm testifying Genesis 49, which is a product of 7 times 7 is 49. Genesis 49, August 10, Shiloh. Not S-H-I-L-A-H, but the O-H. Two-state solution, peace, safety, and women. Parting the land in Israel. So what you're saying is it should be Israel and Palestine. The world is so big, but yet what Israel claims to be Israel, Palestine needs half of it. That would make it equal two-state solution. I don't know anybody that draws this paper as Israel and says, I just want this solution as a state for Palestine. Or this right here for Israel and that Palestine. Equal halves into the righteous spirit. And that's what God said would happen. And then they would talk about peace and safety. But suddenly now we have to talk about women. Included in the peace and safety, the security. Because why? Women have never been spoken about, even though women are what bear your children. Peace and security and women. I'm not a man. I was born female as Shyla. Partly the reason why I don't feel And like my identity is to be Jacob. Jacob means deceiver. Was Jacob a deceiver? What was he wrestling with? He had everything and he worked righteously for everything that everybody else lied on him about and gave him. Who is the Shiloh to return? My name, Shiloh, means brother. Jacob means deceiver. Am I a brother? Was Jacob a deceiver? Don't know your identity, but yet you're wrestling with God and man. Suddenly, God changes your name. Now you become Israel. You're the covenant holder. Okay? What happens? Now we're talking about women, peace, and security. Shiloh means peace. Security means something that you're going to be safe with. And you should be safe all these generations. Have we been safe? Because I would assume if we have been safe all this time, that we wouldn't need to talk about security. And I assume if there have been women all this time, we would not need to be talking about women, peace, and security. Therefore, Shiloh, who means brother, and some can look at it and say, that's Philadelphia too. Yes. Brotherly love. Shiloh, who means brother, understands what it would be to need peace in her life. My identity. For there has not been very much peace, both left or both right, both mom and dad and Hagar. I don't mean to say it like that, but if we get biblical, I have a stepmom too. Jacob had 4 wives, but some will say he only had 1. That's the promise. But his other sister, the first one that came, that was from Laban. But they were both sisters. And in Jesus' eyes, what is he saying? Jewish and Greek and Jewish, we are neither. Even though Jesus is Jewish. How does that become? He's saying we're not. Because his blood was conceived by the Holy Spirit. By the Holy Spirit and one woman. And the conversation by the breath of an angel, Gabriel, that spoke to Mary. Gabriel spoke to Muhammad. Gabriel first spoke to Mary. Okay? He spoke to a woman first and conceived Jesus. And 600-700 years later, Gabriel spoke to Muhammad. And they have their beliefs. And when Jesus came, he spoke something very important to those for a later generation. He spoke the truth. He could see it for a later generation. And he was saying, when they talk about peace and security, run. Why? Because sudden destruction would come. Now, those that know the truth, are you creating destruction? In my father's land of Iran, his parents, his dad and his brother divided the land, my grandpa was cheated. Grandpa Da'i was cheated, but his brother Da'i got everything. They believe in Muhammad, who is right, who is wrong. On the Skaggs family, my mother, Patricia Skaggs, Her mother, Patricia Skaggs, operating the farm, equal shares, doing what they're supposed to, believing in Jesus. They're Christians. That's who their prophet is. But you got my grandpa's brother. Now, did my grandpa's brother treat his brother fair in the end? Tell the truth. Tell the truth, those that listen. Is it the truth? And you who believe, if you can't see the truth, you've been living a lie all this time. And that's what the Lord will say in truth. Because I know what it's like to work. My personal testimony, I was told to write a book. It took me 2 years, the second book. The first book took me 10 months. It was on my own story, life story that I could remember, and I needed to write it. But the painful process of doing that, yet I didn't get anything for doing it. I knew how unfair that was in truth. God says nobody who lights a candle puts it under their bed, do they? I wrote a book. It should have prospered. The second book was in truth. It saw much of prophecy, yet it was under the bed, hidden, and counted as for nothing. Back to my mom. Was she given equal parts? Was it right? Did she say anything? Did she hurt anybody else's feelings? What did she do? All her life she was held under oppression. What could she do? 67 years of her life. Shh. Or there will be punishment to pay, little girl. Shh. By the time she's an adult trying to fight to have something, inheritance, she has a stroke. But everybody else is living a little different from the inheritance. Tell me what's right. And if those on my side of the family are listening and can answer in truth, God could probably do the truth too in a matter of time. It's by faith and the one that sees it. The one that's carrying a testimony can overcome Satan. But if you see the truth before you, testifying truth, and you put it under, said, shh, be quiet. I don't want to show my shame, my guilt for what I've done. But we believe in Jesus. That's what Jesus is trying to get everybody to confess, not just in my family, but in the world. And if you can't do it in your own house, the world can't be cleaned up. And yet everybody's saying, how do we move on? What do we got to do? I guess we'll just let over there Russia blow us up. I mean, we've lived a good life. And meanwhile, the missile is probably targeted at New York, Oklahoma, and probably another place. According to IPEC, there's little pin dots on those locations. There's another one on there too. I think it's New Orleans. I guess, we'll just cover our shame when it's the end. It's the end. God only knows the time and hour. No man knows, right? Well, let me just tell you something. Revelation 12:11 is a testimony. And it is by a woman's faith that testifies and overcomes Satan, who laid down her life, followed the Lord Jesus, and blood of the Lamb, who testifies. Unless you believe that what I'm saying is no different than Israel finding a Messiah, their third temple. By the way, those red heifers came from Texas, 30 minutes from where I'm standing in Rockwall. My mother passed away 30 minutes from where they got them, Rockwall. She passed away in McKinney the day before Biden became the president. She passed away November the 2nd, 2020. A year later, the red heifers were sent over to Israel, Shiloh, Israel. And nobody lights a candle and they stick it under the bed, do they? That's like lighting a match. That big old sunlight, sticking it right in the earth. How you like that? Is that really what y'all want God to do? Because in the beginning, when he created all things, he created the sun and the moon and the stars for seasons. And when he said, let the sun be, and it rose up on the east, and it sets in the west. Is that correct, guys? Those that believe when they're praying to the east? Because the sun rises up in the east and it sets on the west. Do you not think that God can take that sun that's over there on the west and pull it back through this earth like that and have it set on the east? You know, if God changed Jacob to Israel, they wrestled, right? And we have a little wrestling match. We have a little understanding. Peace and security, we don't know if it's Israel or Palestine. So let's divide it in half. Let's take a vote. Who thinks this? China, Russia, Britain, who are the rest? United States, is there another one? Yeah, there's another one in there. Iran. Who thinks that we should divide the land? Who thinks we should open the borders for everybody to come in? You know, like Texas borders. Come on, Mexico, and go in through Mexico, China, Russia, Africa, wherever else you're coming from. Everybody, come on in, but you have to go through Mexico, go into the southern borders, and go up like this, like a flood. You know, we'll give birth this way. Or which church do you belong to? Do you belong to Christian, Methodist, Baptist, Roman Catholic, what else is there? Methodist, did I say that? Lutheran, Adventist, Seventh-day, Return of Latter-days Church, Seventh-day, Kingdom of Nazareth, Kingdom of Light, what else? Pentecostal, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness. Which one? Which four walls do you like? Should we let down the east gate and let everybody flood into the house? The earth? The border? The state? One state or two state? What does it mean to be son Jacob and daughter Israel? And they're one, by the way. They are the same person. Jacob and Israel, they are the same person. You know, when Jacob passed away, he suddenly became a daughter. Daughter Israel. And I am a female. Does that mean when Shiloh returns, suddenly I'm a male? Tell me, because that's what prophecy is saying. And it equals up to what not just Israel's doing, but also Iran's doing, where my father's from. I'm seeing it all the way around. I'm testifying this in truth. And the reason I am is because until I say something, I can't have a righteous life either. I'm sitting here. I feel like I'm defending the world that I feel like should know the truth. Yet everybody's fighting. Is it this religion that believes? And let me just go down to it like this. Even in the Muslim religion, there isn't a Muslim religion without having a Sunni and a Shiite. There's a split down the Muslims. Can you see it, people? But yet, the solution is one world order and one religion. We're going to take everything that we learned away because that's not working right. But you got a problem with that. Now suddenly, you got everybody, the same thing. You got everybody in the household. Let's just say it like that. You got everybody, no borders. It's one religion. But suddenly, now what? Is there too many people in the house? Because what you're realizing is just like what God realized. there's too many spirits in the house believing in this way. When I'm the creator, I wrote it this way. God, the same Allah, the same God that wrote your life, my life, the tree's life, the bird's life, the same God that wrote everything. But there's what? Too many spirits in the house that wants to run away, do it that way, provide on their own. Much like the bodies, if we can tattoo them with a barcode and this, we can keep track of them. We can see them like God sees us. But God don't see us that way. God sees us in love. God sees us with joy and peace and kindness. The fruits of the Spirit are exact opposite of the world order coming upon the land, if that's what you really want and you really know the truth. And the people that are just, they don't know, they're just enjoying their life. They're like the spirits going here and there, but we'll control them and we'll put a barcode on them. And if they think they're going to jump off a cliff, we'll push the peace button and suddenly they'll have this peace and they'll look at that and say, what am I doing? Like they had dementia. That's not the original plan. And the reason I'm testifying today is because Jesus paid for everything. And I encourage you to study who Jesus truly is, not by Muhammad's sight, but by my sight. I put it back on me. In Daniel's time, there was just Daniel and whoever, King Cyrus and Darius. But, King Cyrus was like, I believe in Daniel's God. I believe in the God of Daniel. So, I believe in Jesus. The Jesus I believe in comes from the King James Version that I've been reading. But before I even read the King James Version, I had the righteous spirit in me. I knew what was right and wrong. And some will say, well, your sin is this. Yeah, my sin is this. But what is your sin? Are you free of sin? So why did Jesus come? Okay? And let's just say I'm the only sinner that has my sin, which is a false lie, right? In every country, there's somebody like me in the LGBT, but yet I'm the only one with this sin? No. So what's the excuse in Iran?